Good evening again. If you remember last time we were talking about education and schools in Papua New Guinea. There, Papua New Guinea. And particularly in the islands down the tip of Papua New Guinea here, in the Coral Sea, just off the coast of Australia. The people there, as you will recall, never had schools, many of them, most of them, until after the war. I arrived there in 1964 and I had to teach in the primary school there, one of the very few primary schools, and I did that for a year or two, then I did other things, but after about 35 years there, and I was working there in the islands, looking after people, bringing them to hospital, caring for them spiritually. The number of schools had grown greatly. There were schools practically on every major island where people from most of those islands could go to primary school. Because over the 30 or 40 years that I had been there, people who never knew in the beginning very much of what the rest of the world was like, slowly grew to understand that in the world outside of their islands was a different kind of world, and for young people a very interesting world. And as transport grew better and they take boats to the mainland of Papua New Guinea and to the towns there, they began to learn that for someone to make a life in the new world that they were seeing and sometimes looking around in the towns, education was a necessity. Not the education that they had had when they grew up in the village, but something much more, I don't say substantial, no, but something suited to make them able to make their way in that new world and do some of the interesting things that they saw there. So, come forward to 1970, 80, 2000 and 2015. By then, we had quite a number of hundreds of graduating students in the islands from the primary schools, finished grade 6. But there was a problem there. Only 30% of those finishing primary schools actually got a place in high school or vocational school or technical training, apprenticeship or anything like that. The rest of them, 70% of them, were simply told to go home and live in the village as their parents and their grandparents had lived. And that was something that many of them didn't want to do. They wanted to go down and live in this new world that they'd seen on their videos. They had videos by then. They had seen when they went down to visit. They wanted more education. So tomorrow I'll tell you what happened and how they got it. For tonight, good night, God bless.